Hey, okay, so we're back. We're going to work on the little MAXX again. I'm going to show you guys how to remove your pinion gear, check out your spur, remove your spur, set your gear mesh, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and just get right into this video. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to need today, we'll need a 2.5, we might need a 2mm, and we might need a pair of some wire cutters or something to cut a zip tie with. We're going to have to cut that zip tie off of there and replace that. So that's what we will be needing. So let's get started on this. Let's go ahead and pull this access cover off to get to the spur and get to the pinion gear. So we're going to take a 2.5mm and we're going to pull these covers. I'm going to start with these two screws here. You got one here, and then you've got 4 screws, as you can see, on this larger spur cover here. We'll take this cover off. Okay, I'm going to grab those 2 screws with my magnet there. Okay, these screws here, kind of short. That's what they look like there. Now those 2 for the small cover. Set those aside. Reach in there and pull this cover off. Just like that there. Now I'll set it right over those 2 screws that held it. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove these 4 in this cover here. And then there's another one to get to that faces in this way, and you may be able to get to it with a regular Allen. If not, you'll need a ball head Allen, or you'll have to remove the motor to get to it a little easier. If you do have to pull the motor, it's literally 2 screws. It's nothing, not a big deal at all. We will do that here just in case you have to do that. So this cover here, the screws are actually the same size. That's those right there. So all 6 screws are the same. So this cover is not going to come off yet because there is a bolt or a screw right there. You see that screw there? So in order to get that screw out, we're going to need a 2.5mm. I don't know if I can get to it with a regular... Yeah, you can't get to it with a regular Allen straight, but I've got a ball head here. And you see what I mean with a ball head? And what that allows you to do is get at more of an angle. Let's see, I can get way over here and still loosen it right up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that screw out. And that's what that one there looks like. It's got a little washer on it, and it's a 2mm. Is that a 2 or a 2.5? 2.5. So I'll set it down over there. Now we can pull this cover right out of the way. And now you have direct access to your spur gear. And this will just lift right out. And there you go. So I'm going to set this right aside just for the moment, because I'm going to show you guys how to access your pinion and how to adjust it. Now we got a good shot at your motor spur gear. So here's your spur right here. Now if you want to change this spur, you're going to have to pull the motor up out of the chassis. So let me show you guys how to do that. And you can grab your 2.5, chuck it up in your tool, and let's go ahead and flip this over real fast. Nothing's going to fall out. You're welcome. I mean, you're free to turn it right over and not have to worry about anything falling out of this truck. Okay, you're going to need to remove this screw here, and then there's one down inside there. So it doesn't matter which one you pull out first. Go ahead and pull them both out. Now when you pull these 2 screws, the motor's going to fall out. Don't freak out. You can put your hand under it like I'm going to do here. I got my hand under it there. You don't have to. It's not going anywhere. So I'm going to grab it. Now we'll just turn it right back over. I'm going to try to put it back where we had it. Now the motor's loose. So now it's not going to go a long way because you got this zip tie on here and you got the ESC wires. So I'm going to try not to pull those off. I'd rather leave it factory in case, you know, I resell this truck. I want it looking as factory as possible. Because the story of this truck was it was going to be a gift for someone, and then the plans just changed. So there, now you have access to your spur gear, or your pinion gear rather. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. and show you how to reset the mesh and all that good stuff. In the event you've tore this up or you just want to change gearing or anything like that, I'll show you how to, remove it and be sure that it's put back on properly. So just going to reach in there, loosen that set screw up. I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way out because I'm going to reapply Loctite to it. Alright, now the spur gear should slide right off of there. If it doesn't slide, sometimes it does stick a little bit. You have to just give it a little bit of a pry and then it'll come off. There, came right off. So there's our pinion, 24 tooth pinion gear. And now I'm going to show you guys how we're going to put that right back on there. In the event you are changing your gearing, if you're familiar with the XMAXX, the MAXX is going to be about the same. It's a pin system, and the pin has actually fallen out of this one when the motor came out. Here's a pin right here and a magnet you see there. And you see your slots where your pin sits. Now, I'm going to tilt this chassis up. Now you see right there, stock gearing 2450, pin letter E. Well, that is where the pin belongs for, the factory gearing. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in letter E. And there are letters on the chassis, you just can't see them very well. Now there you can actually see the letters. And my eyes are not that good, so I'm actually going to look in the camera when I put this pin back in to be sure I get it in the right spot. E. That is E, I believe. Yep, that's E. So that's where it belongs for stock gearing. So that's where the pin belongs for stock gearing for 2450. Now, when you change gearing, obviously you have to change the pin position. I'll throw up a chart on the screen somewhere around here to tell you the different pin positions. Let's go ahead and put it back together and show you guys how to put the motor back in and reset your mesh. So we're going to go ahead and put the pinion back on. Remember, the pinion has to go on before you put your motor in because there's no room to do afterwards. So I've already got my grub screw or my set screw on my Allen. I'm going to take and drip just a little bit more Loctite on there before I put it back in. Just like that, just a drop, all it takes. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get it started in my pinion. Just like that there. And I'm going to try to work kind of fast. Nothing like a good Allen bit, I tell you. I'm going to try and work kind of fast because this stuff is going to set up. So when you put this back on, try and remember you want your motor flat spot at the top. It just makes it easier. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on, just right about there for now, and go ahead and get this motor set back into place and be sure that my pin falls back where it belongs. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to take my spur gear and I'm going to set it back in the way that it goes. Just setting this in for the meantime so that I know that when my pin position is in place, when my mesh looks right, I know I'm in the right pin position. So let's see. You just want to take your time and be sure that it does go back in where it needs to go. Okay, it's set back in there. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of push my pinion back in the general area. I'm going to hold that motor tight and push down on that spur because there's nothing holding it, obviously, and I'm just going to be sure. See how I have very little lash? That means that it's right. That means that the motor went back in its proper spot and I'm safe to go ahead and put the screws back in it now. So I'm going to lift my spur back out for the moment. I'm going to hold this motor in place. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to grab one of my motor screws, which is this one here, and drop it right back into place. And that's a 2.5. I need to re-chuck my tool up here. I didn't have it chucked up. There. Now it ain't going anywhere. I can let go of it and get my other hand out. This is our second screw. It goes right back in here. Get these a little snug. You don't want to over tighten them. Good and tight there. Okay, now we can turn it back over. We know the motor's back where it belongs and it's home. Now I'm going to show you guys how to get the mesh set properly and all that good stuff. Alright, so now if you wanted to change your spur gear, I'm going to show you how to change that real quick, and it's really straightforward. So you're going to need a 2mm. So we'll go ahead and chuck that up real quick, and then we'll take this here, we'll just pull the bearings off, set those down. Then this gear will have a little cross pin behind it. You'll see the slot there. Take that cross pin and just slide it right out of there. And then the spur has three screws holding it on. This one is plastic spur because it's still a factory gear. So I'd like to put a metal one on it, but I don't have one at the moment. But just gonna loosen these 3 screws up. So you got 1, 2, and 3. Just like that there. So you have that one on there, 2, and then you have the 3rd one. Then this gear will push right off the back, just like that there. Then you have your cush drive there. Then if you want to put your your new gear back on, it only goes on one way. See, it's not going to go that way. It's meant to go on like this. Just line up a flat spot there with one of the flat spot notches there. Just like that. You put it back in and you run all 3 screws back in. Okay, you get all 3 of those back in, back tight. You put your little cross pin in there, get it centered. You got a gear with a slot, you just line that up, just like that there. You can turn it over, put that bearing on, turn it over, put this bearing on, and you're back in business. You've got your spur gear changed back out now. So let's go ahead and get our spur set back in. Just like that there. Okay, now, and that's gonna happen right now because it's not held down. Okay, I'd like to get you guys directly above it. So we're gonna hold this spur down kind of solid, and now this gear will move because it's not tight. See, now that obviously is not right. You want this gear to run right dead center of that spur, just like that. So let's go ahead and turn this. We want it right on top of that flat spot. You see that flat spot right here? Our grub screw, our set screw is right on top of that flat spot, so that's good there. So let's go ahead and get that tightened up. Meanwhile, making sure that we keep it dead center with that spur. So I'm just going to kind of put some pressure on that spur gear. And I'm going to tighten it up. Good there. Okay, so that's good to go. Now we've got that done. If you roll it now, it's going to kind of slip one way or the other because the spur is not held down tight. So now we can go ahead and put our cover back on. So be sure that this spur is sitting down where it needs to. Be sure the bearings are in the right spot. You see there? Okay. So this goes back just like this here, and we're going to put this screw in first so we don't forget it. So I'm going to try to get this back in here. Okay. You know you got a good Allen whenever it wants to stay in the screw. Okay, now we can put these other 4 in that are a 2.5. So I'm going to grab 4 of my screws. Remember, all 6 were the same length, so just grab 4 of them and go ahead and get those back in. Once we get a couple of these screws in, we should easily be able to roll it forward and backward, and the gears stay engaged. I'm going to put these in kind of like diagonal from each other. Don't know that it really matters, but I know in the mechanic world it's always better to tighten things up in a crisscross fashion. So it can't hurt, right? Okay, I got these in. Now, these are really, really small screws, so I'm going to follow up tightening these by hand just to be sure I don't over torque them. Like that. Like that one there. And the fourth one. Okay? This little clip has came out, so I'm going to pop that back in place. Now let's give her a roll and see what she does. Perfect. So now let's go ahead, put our other cover on. Other cover sits just like this down here. Right there. 2 remaining screws. They're at a 2.5 millimeter head. Ooh, I dropped that screw down in the chassis. I don't know where it's at. You have to go fishing with my magnet. One way to find it. There it is. Okay. And we'll put in this last screw right over here in the corner. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up by hand also. There we go. The roll is nice and smooth. We're going to double check these bottom screws real fast here. I've got one down here, remember? Good and tight. And that one's good and tight. So there we go. Now you guys know how to pull your spur, how to remove the pinion, change the pinion, how to adjust the gear mesh. Hopefully the gearing chart works for you guys. So guys, if this video helped you out, I appreciate if you would like, comment, and subscribe. In the comment section, let me know what video you want to see next, and I'll do my best to get to it for you. I'm going through this little Max pretty quick. We've done quite a few things on it so far. Now we're pretty much going to be getting into it as far as changing motor, ESC, upgrading the servo, stuff like that. Like I said, anything else you want to see, feel free to comment below and I'll do my best. Okay, that's it guys. That's it for this video. On to the next one.